And for everyone else here, very excited to welcome Alvin. Alvin is a super special guest because he was actually, well, he is one of us. He went through Rocket Academy's bootcamp just like everyone else here. He graduated in our first batch that started in October 2020 and finished in April, was it April or March? April 2021. Yep. Alvin was very successful in his job search. He ended up joining the company Xfers, which is a fintech company based in Singapore after he graduated. And he's been there for 6 months now, right, Alvin? And has a lot of stories to share, which I'm excited to hear about today. Prior to Rocket Academy, Alvin was studying mechanical engineering at NUS, so in Singapore, National University of Singapore. So he pretty much straight out of NUS, right, Alvin?
Yeah.
He did a few internships, but then more or less straight out of NUS, Alvin joined Rocket Academy and made the career switch. So very excited to have Alvin today. And we have our Pigeonhole Q&A. I don't know if that's been shared with the Zoom yet, so I'm just gonna post it again here. I'm posting it in the Zoom link. And Alvin has prepared a short presentation. So we'll let Alvin do a presentation, and then please post your questions in the Pigeonhole Q&A and we will upvote and moderate from there. Tanesh and I will be co-hosting today. And without further ado, I think we'll hand it over to Alvin.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for the cool introduction, Kai. So, just to let you guys know what I've roughly prepared, I'll first share about the reasons why I switched my career from Mech-Eng to software engineering. And then after that, give a brief introduction of what Xfers does. And finally, I'll just end off with my interview process with Xfers. Yeah. So why did I switch my career? It's mostly because of COVID-19. When the pandemic hit, it was around the period when I was about to graduate. So I was frantically searching for jobs at that time. And most of you guys know the engineering sector, or at least the conventional engineering sector, like infrastructure and basically that kind of stuff, took a huge hit and many workers couldn't work. And so the projects also dwindled down during that period. And I had a terrible time searching for jobs in my industry. So at that point of time, I was wondering of switching industry and especially into coding, because actually my backstory is I initially wanted to join business analytics when I was choosing my course, but due to certain external factors, I ended up in Mech engineering. So when the pandemic hit, it was an opportunity for me to go back to my previous interest, which is something related to coding. So I met Kai in a Telegram group, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to try out Rocket Academy?" And that's how I found about Rocket Academy. I was deliberating between GA and RA at first, but I guess Kai sold me completely, and that's why I joined RA. And since then, as you guys know, RA's curriculum is good enough for me to get a full-time job. So you guys are in good hands. And so that's about it for why I switched careers. So now I'll just talk a little bit of what Xfers does. So actually Xfers has a couple of business units, and overall, Xfers is trying to accelerate financial access in Southeast Asia. So we offer financial services that gives applications the ability to provide better financial access in Southeast Asia. So we have 5 business units. So namely payments, card issuing, financing, identity, and StraightX. So payments is providing that payments infrastructure for our internal products to use so that we can build products on top of them. Then card issuing is a relatively new business unit that we have launched. We are trying to create something like a Visa card product for our Indonesia products. And then the next one is financing. Not too sure what financing does, so I'll move on to identity. So for our identity team, basically, you know how every application has that login and logout authentication kind of stuff. So this team is dedicated to handle the login stuff and logout stuff, as well as being a like a kind of like a financial institution kind of. We have to ensure that people go through a certain verification process, or what we call KYC, know your customer. So they have to submit like their photo, or even their SingPass information. So this is what the identity team handles. Yeah. And then we finally have the business unit that I'm currently working in, which is StraightX. So what StraightX does is basically we are trying to allow users to gain more financial access to the digital payments side of stuff. So like cryptocurrency. Yeah, so we mainly dwell in the cryptocurrency space. So what StraightX product offers is that we allow users to transfer fiat currency, so Singapore dollars, to crypto exchanges like Binance SG, Gemini, Coinbase, CoinHeco. Yeah. So if you guys invest in cryptocurrencies, you will know that if you want to transfer, if you want to remit USD to Binance.com or to Gemini, you'll roughly take you'll go through the bank transfer, which will take about like 1 day or 2 days. Yeah. And if you transfer via Xfers, you can transfer Singapore dollars to Gemini or Binance within a short amount of time of about 30 minutes. Yeah. But most of the time, it will just take like 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah. So other than transferring fiat to crypto exchanges to allow you to buy cryptocurrencies, Xfers have worked with like MAS to launch this stablecoin equivalent of Singapore dollar. So we call this stablecoin XSGD. So the X just stands for Xfers. Yeah. And we also recently launched the stablecoin equivalent of the Indonesian rupee. So it's called XIDR. Yeah. So what are the use cases of stablecoins? So just to give a very short introduction of the use cases. So firstly, is mainly used to act as a stable currency to transfer your stablecoin across different like cryptocurrency exchanges, or even your non-custodial non-custodial wallets, such as like your MetaMask, yeah, or your Luno wallet. Yeah. So imagine if you use Bitcoin to transfer and then buy like Ethereum, right? If you use Bitcoin, if you transfer, the Bitcoin price fluctuates quite a bit. Yeah. So it can lose like 1 to 2% within that amount of time that you use to transfer. So this is the main use case of stable coins, which is, as the name suggests, the value of the currency is always stable. We try to make it stable such that you don't lose that. You don't have to worry about the fluctuation in prices. Yeah. So that's the main use case. And the second use case for those like more investment savvy people, you guys can use stablecoins to even do staking. So if you stake your stablecoins, you are providing liquidity to the platform. And so like, because you provide liquidity, you enable the network to function better. So you get a reward. So it's like your return on investment. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, so these are the main use cases of stablecoins. So that kind of sums up what StraightX does. Yeah. And lastly, I'll just end off with my interview process with Xfers. So basically, It's quite simple. The first one is online DSMA. So there are like 3 to 4 questions. I can't really recall the exact questions, but I think I roughly knew how to answer about 70% of the questions. Yeah, so maybe 3 out of 4. Yeah. And then after that, 2 rounds of tech interview, so face-to-face tech interview questions with an engineer, and then the next one with the tech lead. So the face-to-face interview to me were easier than the online tech assessment, because the questions that were being asked in the face-to-face interview were more like array questions, and you just have to sort or do like certain loops. So they are kind of like easy questions according, if you were to benchmark it against the questions on leak code. Yeah. And then finally, we have a 1 round of a cultural interview with like the engineering manager. So engineering manager is like someone who oversees the engineering team in StraightX. So he's like 1 level higher than the tech lead. Yeah. So the progression, I guess, in Xfers is like me, software engineer, then senior software engineer, and then tech lead, and then engineering manager. Yeah. So that's basically it for my interview process. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I've roughly more or less covered what I needed to share.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can take it over from here. Thanks for the sharing, Alvin. So you covered everything from like why you made the career switch to why you chose Rocket to what Xfers does and how you got into Xfers. So I think for the rest of the 1 hour, we're probably going to retouch those topics, chunk by chunk and dive deeper a bit. So just to give you some overview, what backgrounds the students we have here today. We have students who have just started, like Therese. So Therese just started PTBC 2 last week. Students in the middle of the course, FTBC 5 they're almost done with project 2. I think they're presenting a project 2 next Tuesday. If you can still remember your project 2, you can give them hot tips for that. And FTBC 4 is going to graduate. So they'll be very interested in like more of how you apply. Did you have to practice your DSNA? I just wanted to go back to where you started, which is your career switch and why you chose Rocket and delivering a GA, all that. And for context for everyone else, before you came in, Brian was kind of complaining about the FOMO. So Brian is actually the same basics batch as Alvin. So Alvin, can I just confirm you did basics, you did the whole thing, right? Basics and then straight into bootcamp.
That's right.
Did you have any programming experience before you did bootcamp?
I only learned like C.
Right.
Yeah.
In engineering, in Mac engineering.
Yeah, correct.
Right. So then Alvin did the whole basics. He was there with Brian and Kendrick, and Brian was kind of, not to harp on your FOMO, Brian, kind of like lamenting that he has some FOMO with when he looks at where Alvin and Kendrick are right now. But why I bring this up is not to shame Brian, but just to say that 1 year from now, this is where you guys are going to be. So you can be very caught up in like where you are right now. But very quickly, you might be coming back for Q&A as well. And then you'll be telling why you switched jobs and why you chose Rocket. Right. So the top voted question, I think one of the top voted questions was like, as a former Rocket bootcamp student, what advice you have? But I'm going to keep that for the very end, right? Just give advice for everybody. So let's just touch about Xfers a little bit. So you cover what they do. We also have a bunch of cryptocurrency enthusiasts in the group. So those crypto questions have definitely come out. So I think I'll start with Kai's question, which is like, what is the favorite piece of work you've done at Xfers so far, and why?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess the favorite piece of work at Xfers is probably one that I probably was most involved in. So we recently had like a revamp, like a rebranding of our dashboard. So we are called Xfers, but we rebranded the dashboard such that it is now called the StraightX dashboard instead of the Xfers dashboard. So this is to differentiate ourselves as a product compared to like the other products in Xfers. So when people hear of StraightX, they will know that it's mainly used for cryptocurrency kind of transactions. Yeah. So the work that I was like most, like I think was my favorite work is basically this rebranding of our dashboard, like dashboard as in like our front end stuff. So I was able to make use of the React knowledge that I learned from Rocket Academy to basically do a rescaling, redesigning of the front end so that we can rebrand the StraightX dashboard. And through that, I learned like quite a bit of communication skills because I was put in charge of that project. So I needed to communicate with other people who have a better understanding of our code base. And also I interacted with other teams, and being a rather small team of like 4 engineers for this project, I also work with like the designers and the product managers to like ensure that everything is able to be delivered on time. And as and when they have like adjustments to the product requirements, then I'll liaise with them and yeah, basically get this product completed on time. And having that standard lah, yeah.
You mentioned a bit about communication. And I think before we started this Q&A, you also talking about how communication is important to make you like stand out as an engineer. Could you talk a bit more about like when you were approaching a code base, you didn't know what kind of communication skills, why was communication important in like in being a good engineer and contributing to that code base?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So one good point that you brought up is about if you are unsure about a certain code, like what will you do? So in my case, I would first, if it's a syntax issue, I'll try to Google first. But if it's more like I don't really understand the business logic, and that's why it's because I'm not familiar with the code base. So I'll just ping my teammates, the more experienced ones, or ping my product manager who knows more about the product, to ask him like, oh, what is the business flow of this like user story? Yeah. So I guess just reach out to them via Slack. That's the main form of communication. Or we can do like Slack has this functionality called Huddle. So you can just give them a quick call and just ask them whatever questions you need. So I think if you find a company that embraces this culture of being open to communication, you are in a good place. Yeah, and you can learn lots.
So should bootcamp graduates be afraid of like asking questions about stuff they don't know in the code when they first get a job?
Oh yeah, it can be scary to ask. I faced that issue when I first joined Xfers. But after you do it a few times, you will feel that people are actually open to communicating with you. Yeah. And one thing to note is that sometimes you ask a few times, there are certain times that they don't answer, but it's not because that they find you irritating or anything. It's more often they either missed your message or they have other stuff to do as well. So they will come back to you later. And if they forget, just ping them again. And I'm sure they'll be open to talking to you. Because if they help you, you'll learn that. You'll learn that whatever problem you're facing, and now you have a bigger knowledge base and you'll be able to contribute more in future.
Okay, better to ask than to remain a fool.
Yes.
Okay, so a couple more questions.
Sounds like Rocket Academy.
Couple more questions about Xfers and how you approached Xfers when you were fresh out of Rocket Academy. So Dom has a question saying, since Xfers is in finance, did you have any prior knowledge before you joined Xfers? Did you maybe study specifically for the Xfers interview? Or how critical do you think content or domain knowledge is when you're joining a business as a software engineer? And Shannon also has a very similar question saying, did you wish that you studied anything additionally during bootcamp or prior to job application? Given the experience that you have in Xfers.
So I'll just speak in terms of my experience with Xfers, because I'm not too sure about like other financial companies. But I actually interviewed at Xendit as well, which is, sorry, can you guys hear the aeroplane?
No, we're good.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, so I interviewed with Xendit and Xfers. Actually, both like processes, they didn't really ask me about my financial domain stuff, or the crypto domain stuff. They are more like interested in your technical skill set. So the main point, I guess the main thing to focus on is your DSMA, and whether your interests align with your with the company. Yeah. So by interest, I mean maybe what you want to do in future. What do you see yourself doing in what industry in future? And I guess the cultural values that you have, are they aligned to the company or not? Yeah, so not so much about the domain knowledge as far as I experienced.
So in your day-to-day job, do you feel that having a better grasp on whether it's financial markets or principles, or why blockchain, why crypto, why the difference between crypto coins, would that help you in your day-to-day job, or do you think that's actually more like an extra? You don't really need it. You can still be a great software engineer.
I would say it's not necessary. Yeah, and if you don't know, you just ask them. But if you have used similar products before, then you have a better understanding of how the business works, and it will translate to you familiarizing yourself with the code base more easily. Yeah, and I guess it kind of contributes to you being a better engineer, a more efficient engineer. But I wouldn't say it plays a big role. Yeah.
Right. So would you say, I have a question here that asks how easy was it to learn blockchain and crypto? But fundamentally, did you have to learn, how blockchain works, or did you read white papers? Did you have to learn any of that? Or are you just, in your lane doing software engineering stuff?
Yeah, thankfully, you don't need to know blockchain unless you're applying for a role as a blockchain engineer.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So my role is a backend engineer. So I just need to know Ruby on Rails and also help out with the front end stuff occasionally. So React will do. And we use Redux. And I think a lot of companies use Redux. So during your free time, feel free to go and learn Redux, because it's quite helpful it's quite useful in a large code base. Yeah.
Great that you're bringing up in your free time, because Shannon has a question about, in general, not just about maybe with your experience access, but in general, are there any additional topics, including Redux, that you wish you had started studying independently or earlier while you were in bootcamp?
Okay. Yeah, Redux is one of them. And actually, my company is using Rails for the backend, but I think that it's not necessary to run Rails before applying to a job that requires Rails knowledge, because Rails is quite similar to Xfers, the framework that we are using, basically the MVC framework, and SQLize. Rails has something similar to SQLize that's built into Rails. Yeah, so if you learn the tech stack that Rocket Academy is offering, I think you'll be able to translate that knowledge to Rails. Yeah.
Okay, so talking about tech stacks and translating, Shannon has a question about onboarding. So when you first onboarded and there was this new code base, and he's asking specifically about blockchain space, or Web3, MetaMaps, and Corda, but even just Ruby on Rails, right? Which is a different backend tech stack you have not used before. How did they onboard you? How much of it did you have to self-learn? Was it intimidating?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I think how much time they give you is dependent on what phase the company is in right now, whether is it the lull period or the busy period. Thankfully, I came in the lull period before they decided to throw in launch so many products. So I was given about a month to learn Rails and Ruby, because I did not have prior knowledge to Ruby as well. And I would say 1 month is enough for you to learn the basics of Ruby and the basics of Rails. But I'm not sure if it's because my company is a product company instead of a consultancy, but our code base is really huge. It's not a good practice, I feel, but we have this one whole repo containing most of our products. So yeah, as you can see, the code base is probably a million lines of code, and we use quite advanced Rails syntax. So yeah, 1 month for me wasn't enough, and I'm still learning as of now some of the Rails magic that happens under the hood, and some of the syntax.
I thought as a general rule of thumb, from Z last week, this wasn't in the official Q&A, but she mentioned a lot of companies they expect the first 3 months of any new hire just to be almost pure onboarding. how accurate would you say that kind of timeline is?
How accurate? Yeah, I would say it's accurate if, okay, according to my experience, if the company lacks manpower, then no choice, you have to
Plug and play.
learn while you work. Yeah, if not, I think it will be given that luxury of time, especially if it's an internship. Yeah. But my experience can be very different from Kenneth or Chikon. Maybe they are given more time to pick up their skills. Yeah, so I'll be happy to I'll be interested to know about their experiences as well. Maybe it's different. Yeah, so I would say it's based on the company lah. Yeah.
I mean, even if the company needs you to plug and play immediately, would you say that for yourself, you would take about 2 months, 12 weeks to be comfortable with the code base and the tech stack?
Yeah, I think 1 to 2 months is okay. Yeah,
right.
Maybe 1 month for one language and one framework. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So at least students know what to expect when they get their first job. They shouldn't expect to know everything within a week.
Yes.
Shana, I think you wanted to add something on. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a small clarification question. So during that 1 month onboarding, just to clarify, you basically just go to work and you just learn. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah. And help out with some front end stuff if they need to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Shana is looking to get paid to learn, so he might just go from onboarding to onboarding.
Great idea. Okay, thanks.
Right. So we have a question from Therese. Therese saying she's also a mechanical engineer. I think she's not the only one. I think Dominic also mechanical engineer. I think Dominic is walking almost a very similar path to you. So Therese is asking, is there any knowledge transfer, anything from mechanical engineering, whether it's principles, conceptual knowledge, or thinking that you transferred to either your time here at Rocket or your time right now in Xfers?
Yeah, okay. So I wouldn't say hard skills, but in terms of thinking systematically, I think mechanical engineering taught me how to do that, because it's very different when the problems that I solve in junior college versus university. You have to think through more things and you have to come up with the thought process yourself when you enter mechanical engineering. So it's some of the questions are not memory based. Actually, most of the questions are application based. So it's to test your understanding, and how to answer to get those questions right is basically, I guess, have an analytical mind and trying to think through systematically of what you have to do from step 1 to step 5. So I think this thought process can be carried over to any engineering job, including software engineering. So that's, I guess, the thinking process was transferable. Yeah, just not so much about the technical skills lah. Yeah.
Okay, sticking to transferability, Jia En has a question about how much Rocket Academy's projects prepare you, or how much of that kind of skills transfer to on-the-job working. So how would you compare working on RA projects or bootcamp projects to working at a job?
Okay, I would say that RA projects are a smaller scale of the tech of our product in Xfers. So I think one thing that I really benefited from Rocket Academy is learning React and the advanced React stuff, use context or use state, use reducer. They were really helpful in me. They're really helpful for me in terms of the project that I described the project that I described just now, which is the rebranding, because it involved a lot of front end work, and the amount of knowledge I gained from RA was sufficient for me to keep up with the demands for the for the project. And I just needed to learn how Redux works, and I could basically complete the tickets confidently. Yeah, so Redux is quite similar to use state and use reducer. So that kind of shortened my learning process on Redux. Yeah. And
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and for Express, I think it's useful because it taught me the MVC framework, model view controller. And since Rails also uses a similar concept, it helped me like onboard faster as well.
I think the majority of the students who are present here are from Bootcamp 5, who are like somewhere in the middle of the course right now. So they might be stressing out over project 2, and then after that's project 3. And you keep mentioning that React and advanced React helped you the most. So how much, looking back, do you think that, going back in time, did you overstress over project 2 and 3? Are you under stress? Or is like getting a good grasp on, MVCs and ORMs, good foundational transferable knowledge?
Yeah, looking back, I tried to make project 2 and project 3 as perfect as possible. So I got burnt out around like project 3.
Yeah, I think everyone was like.
Yeah, so I would say, okay, Kai might not like this and Akira might not like this, but I think project 2 and project 3, try to pace yourself well, because I think learning React and Redux kind of make things easier of what you learn in project 2 and project 3. So I would say focus, okay, I hate this word, but yeah, try to focus more on React and Redux and Xfers so that you understand it better, because I think the tech stack that you learn in project 4 onwards is like more applicable to, more applicable to like the common tech stacks that companies are using. Yeah.
I was kind of fishing for the answer. I mean, we told them to pace themselves, but they're not going to listen anyway. Right. So then for our Bootcamp 4 students, so Chuan-Xin has a question. Where was it? I've lost it. He said if you travel back in time, right, and you're between projects 5 and 6, and you're also learning DSNA. So you have React, advanced React, and obviously DSNA is so important for the interviews. What would you prioritize? How did you juggle this?
So is project 6 still like free and easy for everyone? Because I remember for my last project, we were given like the luxury to implement any new technology or self-learn any new technology.
We still have the capstone project, yeah.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I think most of us focused on like job search rather than coming up with a really, really complicated capstone project. Yeah, so some of us explored new technologies like building a mobile application or creating like a visualization tool. Yeah, I think that's what Jikon did. He created a map of some sorts using Python. Yeah, so he learned a new language, kind of. Then Kenrick learned a new, I think he learned like Firebase, which is like a non-SQL, non-relational database. So, but I think we spend most of our effort in like searching for jobs and practicing DSNA. Yeah,
we've since modified the course a little bit so that we don't apply for jobs until after the course now. Because of your batch, we were like, okay, these guys clearly have no time to do the capstone project if they're doing interviews in month 6. So we decided, focus on the capstone project and we will apply for jobs later.
Assuming that job hunting is going to happen to you when you go back in time, it's going to happen to you much later on, like after you graduate, what would you do then? Would you do DSNA first or would you focus on projects?
I would say I'll try to have the best of both worlds. So yeah, I'll say half. Yeah. And I'll try out for my capstone project, I'll try out a new technology. So try not to use like React or use like Express. Maybe try to pick up a new language or pick up a new a new framework, something like that. Yeah. Just to expand my knowledge base. Yeah.
When you were searching for jobs and also working on project 6, I mean, you would have to balance having a well-established portfolio and applying for jobs because your project 6 is not been done yet. So how important is having that portfolio polished and ready in the job hunt?
I would say it's definitely important. Some of the interviewers, they actually go through like the code with you to ask you to explain. So yeah, during some of the interview to explain what the code does and how, I guess, how state management works in React, kind of, yeah, if they use that tech stack. So it's definitely important to like polish your or get at least a working product, yeah, to show them. Then after that, focus on DSNA. So I would say that not every company goes through your portfolio with you. So if you want to focus on something, maybe, yeah, focus on DSNA, because more companies assess you based on DSNA compared to your portfolios. Yeah.
Before we get to the DSNA, can I just ask how many projects were in your portfolio? Was it just project 6, or how far did you have video poker in your portfolio? How far back did you go?
Oh, I didn't go to video poker, but I think I had 3 projects in my resume. They are mainly the React ones. So project 4 and 5. Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe project 3. Yeah.
Right. So now talking about DSNA, you're saying it's incredibly important. So how intensive was your LeetCode practice? Would you only use LeetCode? Do you have any other resources to recommend on how to learn DSNA? How did you approach, when you first started doing DSNA in the middle of the course, that might be, suddenly you're just, you're building momentum, you're doing projects, and suddenly you have to reverse a linked list. Did that come as a shock to you? Do you have any advice for Bootcamp 5? We're going to do that in about a month, I think. And for Bootcamp 4 right now, who are practicing their DSNA.
Okay. So I think RA has this strategy to first do a certain number of easy level LeetCode questions, then move on to the medium ones. And I think that's good. Like you go by the difficulty level. And yeah, LeetCode is a good resource. And then after that, some interviews will ask you like database questions. So ask you to type out like SQL queries. So I think there's a website that you can practice such questions. It's not on LeetCode. Yeah, let me try to find and I'll get back to you guys what that website is.
Yeah. So how intensive was your practice? Even though LeetCode is a good resource, like outside of maybe the RA DSNA curriculum, when they tell you this day we're doing this problem, how much did you practice? Did you buy LeetCode Premium? Did you how much more did you practice for your
I guess outside of office hours, yeah, I definitely have to do your own practice because office hours are definitely not enough. And yeah, just try to do it every night. Maybe 2 questions every night. Yeah, while you're working on a project. But since you're currently because we had to juggle finding job, practicing for DSNA and doing project 6 at the same time. Now you guys don't have to do the job search at the same time. So I would say use that time to practice DSNA questions. Yeah.
So just to contextualize, you got your Xfers offer before the 6 months or so, as in before Rocket ended? Or Kai, do you want to? Yeah, did you get the Xfers offer before you were completely done with the Rocket Bootcamp?
No. Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, so I had to.
Yeah.
It's about, I think 2 months. Yeah, about 2 months.
So during the 2 months, were you still practicing DSNA every day?
Yeah, actually that's the only thing that I was practicing on because completed project 6 and yeah, interviewing. So yeah, just DSNA and polishing the projects here and there. Yeah, if they want to look at my portfolio. Yeah.
Okay, so Shadan has a question about those 2 months. Those 2 months are going to start for them in December or end of December. Do you have any specific advice about how to manage the job prep, the job hunt, morale, mindset, anything like that?
I think morale is important because you'll definitely face a lot of many rejections, right? But you just need that 1 or 2 company that you really like to offer you a position. So even if you get rejected, try to ask them where you can improve on. And if they don't reply, then so be it. Yeah. It's probably not a company that you want to work in. Yeah. That you will want to work in, even if you wanted to work in at first. Yeah. So I think mindset wise, just try to be steadfast. Start with applying for, I think you guys already know, but start applying for jobs that you don't really have interest in first. And then maybe after 3 or 4 interviews, you'll feel more confident after answering the DSNA questions or like doing take-home assignments. Then you'll feel more confident to apply for the jobs that you are more interested in. Yeah, so I would say maybe after 3 or 4 interviews with jobs that you are not super interested in, you can start applying for jobs that you really want to work at those places. Yeah, and for the jobs that you are not interested in, just give them your all, because if you give them your all, you roughly know like you won't have any regrets if they reject you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think
yeah, that's
a piece
my
of
basic advice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a piece of advice that's been given before by Q&A guests. Never apply your dream job right out of the gate. Build some momentum, practice, get some offers for the morale. Before. So how many times did you interview before you apply for Xfers? Was Xfers one of your, was it like a safe option, or was it something you're going for? When you got Xfers, how quickly did you decide that this was for you?
I think Xfers was like my 5th or 6th interview. But I definitely applied to about maybe around 30 to 40 companies, in total. And I will say that RA's Q&A session helped me kind of get the job, because how I knew about, I guess, how I got connected with Xfers was through the Q&A session, where we sent our resume to one of the speakers, and one of the speakers kind of like broadcasted my resume to the HR, and just so happened StraightX, the team StraightX was hiring, and the engineering manager picked up my resume. Dominic is Jin Hao lah. So Jin Hao picked up my resume, and he was like, he just opened this interview opportunity for me. So quite lucky in that sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you gonna pass that forward? Can Shannon send you resume?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Just send me your resume, and I'll forward them to the HR.
He'll send it back and give you advice on how to improve your resume. Right. So then, talking about advice in general, so Justin, I guess this would be, for the rest of the students, or maybe not just for the bootcamp, but when breaking into the tech industry, like maybe for you wasn't maybe that you just switched because you're a mechanical engineer. Justin was previously a creative writer, and we have a lot of varied background people. Do you have any advice in general about like approaching tech from a non-tech background?
Oh, from a non-tech.
Do you have any colleagues who are working at Xfers from a non-tech background? Other bootcamp grads?
Yeah, good question. I feel like all my colleagues come from a tech background, sadly speaking. Yeah. But coming from a non-tech background, I actually didn't have any. Thinking back, I don't think I have any advice to give myself other than before entering RA, I would just learn some HTML, CSS on there's this really famous like free online learning platform, which I forgot. Free Codecamp is one. And
Academy.
Just use those platforms to learn like basic HTML and CSS first. They are produced by, I think, quite really well-known developers or software engineers in the space. So it's a good platform to start from. And then once you enter RA, then it's like you have prior knowledge of HTML and CSS, which will help you be more efficient, be able to learn more stuff in RA, I guess.
Okay, so we've talked about advice in bootcamp, or like how you manage bootcamp, how you manage the job hunt. Now that you're working, Gary has a question on how your work day is like. How is it proportion? How much time do you spend being an individual contributor and just writing code? How much time are your colleagues or your bosses around you? Can you be honest about this? How much time do you spend in meetings? How much time do you spend, socializing? Do you still have time for learning new stuff that's not relevant to Xfers?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So I mentioned just now that I had a lull period, and then there's a period where I was like put in charge of a certain project, right? So during the lull period, yeah, definitely had time after work to learn extra stuff or like go through the code base during my own free time to learn, try to pick up or be more familiar with the code base. So in Xfers, I think it's dependent on what phase the company is at, whether it's trying to launch a product as soon as possible or whether it's in the phase of improving the code base, like making it more maintainable, more scalable. And definitely have time after work. So my work hours are from 9 to 6. Yeah. So after that, I will have time to learn other stuff. And you asked about how much time is related to communication and how much time is related to like solely coding. So we kind of like do like 2-week sprints. Within that 2 weeks, I would say about out of 10 days, maybe 2 days or 3 days are spent on communication. Yeah, so about 30% of the time spent on communication. But if you are put in charge of a project, then you definitely have to communicate more because you are kind of acting like a tech lead of the project. So you probably have to discuss with the designer of like how she wants the thing to look and discuss with the product manager of how the logic is going to flow in terms of the product. Yeah, so definitely quite a bit of communication. And if you don't know anything, that is also communication, right? You ask people.
Right. So you said 30% of a sprint would be communication. Would that more or less be, at the start and the end, where you do the, the retros or the planning, the sprint review, or and then besides the daily scrums every day, would you say that most of the days would just be writing code?
Okay,
you say 30% of every day is communicating.
Yes. Okay, so I forgot to mention, right? Other than like stuff that's related, communication that's related to the sprint, we also do have bi-weekly one-to-one sessions with either your engineering manager or your tech lead. So we block out 1 hour every 2 weeks to catch up with our engineering manager or our tech lead to discuss about life, or your career. Do you have any, is what you're learning currently in line with what you want to do in your career? Or do you have anything that's not related to work that is like affecting you in life and therefore transiting to you not being efficient at work? So we'll try to solve those problems during our one-on-one sessions. And it's just a very candid session to share your concerns and what you think can be improved in the team. So I think that's really valuable, or that's really good to have in our team.
Yeah, we have that at Rocket too. I have one-on-one with Kai and Akira. I haven't booked you guys this week, right? Next week, I need to book you guys. And I also have one with Brian's. Right. So talking about, this communication and networking thing and how you not more or less, but you might have gotten lucky with the Rocket Q&A in getting the job. Johnson's asking, do you have any advice in networking or how to better network? Did you add every Rocket Q&A speaker on LinkedIn? Did you follow up with them after the Q&A? Or did you actively network outside of Q&A?
Okay. I think it's a good thing to add them on LinkedIn after the Q&A so that you can reach out to them personally. And I definitely have done so. And also for outside Q&A, for those companies, I was quite desperate at some point. So I was asking I was adding the CEO of a small startup as a connection and asking whether he's keen on interviewing me. And sometimes it's a hit or miss. It's a hit or miss. But for smaller companies, I think the CEO or the HR will definitely get back to you and give you an interview opportunity. And most of the times it's a online interview first. So that's kind of like not ideal, right? You want to meet them face to face to build that rapport, because I guess you can show that you're a cultural fit. Yeah, so it kind of gives you another option of helping you land that job. Yeah, so definitely reaching out to the CEOs or the HR on LinkedIn definitely helped.
I'm going to add my own 2 cents here. So when I was a bootcamp student, I wouldn't add every Q&A guest on LinkedIn, but the ones that I really like, I would first try and like ask questions during the Q&A. That way it won't be like a random connection during LinkedIn. Ask like a half decent question, and get him to know my face and my voice. And afterwards, I'll add him on LinkedIn with a note, him or her, or with LinkedIn, add LinkedIn with a note. So the ones I would find interesting will either be the ones I would want to work for, like Clarence, Kai, or ones I'm interested in their industry. So just having them on LinkedIn and seeing, what they like, what they share is, also keeping your finger on the pulse of like what's going on in the industry. So I personally would recommend adding people on LinkedIn, but not everyone. You don't really want to just, scattershot. Just add the people that I think you would be interested in having. And before you add them, also ask them good questions during the Q&A. That way you kind of stand out and they're more likely to accept. Those are my 2 cents. Kai, do you have anything to add about connections?
Yeah, I would add that one of our Q&A, I can't remember who it was. I actually think it was our speaker from Percent, Kenrick, a while back. And he was saying that the biggest difference between successful bootcamp graduates and less successful bootcamp graduates is networking. It's like how actively they go out and actually make friends in the industry and build connections, build relationships with engineers out there, because it is through these human connections that interviews happen. Essentially, it's like, oh, can I submit my resume for this role? And then they'll be like, of course. So I would actively encourage everyone here to be connecting with our Q&A speakers, and on your own, whether, for example, Frankie went to a security conference the other day because she's interested in security, or if you're keen in any particular field or industry or company, try and find opportunities to get to know those people outside of school.
Yeah. So if you do want to add future Q&A speakers on LinkedIn, feel free to also ask your questions in Zoom, right? If I'm not asking them well enough, or you just want to add on, or just want to get your face and voice out there, just elaborate on your question, and then you can add them on LinkedIn and they'll know who you are. Right. Shannon has a question. After all this, how you balance your time and how you spend time social networking or like doing one-on-ones. Do you still have time for learning? And if you do, what are you learning right now?
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, I feel that I kind of burn out a little bit from work, from that project. So I'm just taking a bit of, I guess, relaxation time. Yeah, time off after work for this like 1 or 2 weeks. And after that, I think I would want to start on practicing DSNA again and learning more about how to optimize like databases, or how to structure backend so that it's more scalable, or learn more about like networking. Yeah. So these are the fields that I would consider learning. Yeah. Or DevOps, one of them too.
I find it interesting that. Sorry, Kai, go ahead.
Why these areas specifically, Alvin?
Okay, so I think, just now I mentioned about how to make things more scalable. I feel that that's quite a necessary skill set if you want to be like a tech lead, because once you advance in your career, you start having, or as a career as a software engineer, you'll start having questions like, how will you design your backend? How you will design your infrastructure? And you want to try to make it as scalable as possible right from the start, I guess, so that the code is maintainable as you build your code. So scalability is one skill set that I think is important. Yeah. And then for the other one, which is network. So it's not the soft skills networking, it's the tech networking. I think that's kind of important as well, because like if you run into some, I guess it's something that I'm interested in lah. Yeah, so I want to learn that. Yeah, and if your company does blockchain, then yeah, maybe learn Solidity. Learn one of the programming languages that you have not have that time to learn. Yeah, that's being used in your company. Yeah.
So have you firmly decided that you're a backend engineer, or is it like nature of the work you're doing right now, and then you say, okay, I'll just stick in backend, or are you working towards being full-fledged full stack, or maybe trying front-end rollout, or do you just know this is what I want? I want to learn more databases. I want to learn more stuff like that.
Personally, I want to be more of a backend engineer right now, so that I have a deeper understanding of how to build scalable projects in the backend side of stuff. And I think backend is where I can learn more of the business logic, as well as basically more of the business logic and how the payments infrastructure is being built from scratch. Yeah, so I decided to focus more on the backend stuff. And I guess maybe in 2 or 3 years' time, once I'm more confident of the backend stuff, then I will try maybe the front end or moving to like other industries, other aspects of software engineering. Yeah.
So was that a decision you made early when you were job hunting that you will be applying for backend roles, or is that something that you kind of stumbled into and then therefore like, okay, I'm going to take the opportunity to just master backend stuff right now?
Yeah, for me, I was unsure about which aspect of software engineering to go down the rabbit hole kind of, or to learn more, to focus more on. It's more of like when I was interviewing, and then I realized that I stood a chance, or more or less, to get the job. Then I started to try to negotiate which aspect of the software engineering that I'm more interested in. Yeah. If not, I probably would have taken a full stack job. Yeah, either way.
Okay, thanks. We were gonna go to the last question, but we have one new question, on technical question before we go there. It's almost one.
I think we can wrap
that
up.
one?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's good.
So Kenrick has a very interesting question. Why are you so handsome? And then we'll very quickly transit to overall. Do you have any final words or any advice to give all the bootcamp students, starting with Therese, who start week 1, to Shenan, Chuan, Xinjiang, and Justin, who are going to graduate in about 4 weeks? So let's start with the first one, which is why are you so handsome?
Sorry?
Why are you so handsome?
I don't think I am. Okay, the next question.
Okay,
what advice? Yeah. Okay, if I were to give myself advice when I'm about to job hunt, it's probably I will still stick to the plan, but I'll focus more on, I'll try to improve my knowledge on DSNA, as well as study some database querying, like SQL querying syntax, because I think they are being asked, like SQL questions are being asked quite a fair bit, in interviews. And just try to be more resilient to rejections. And I think 2 months, 3 months is normal. Yeah, it is a normal like time span to find a job. So even when I see like Kenrick, who got the job offer before the bootcamp even ended, even though I was like a bit jealous, but that kind of, I will advise myself in future, like myself, if I go back in time, that don't compare yourself with other people, because what they get might not be what you want, and you might just be unlucky in your job search. So you just need to continue finding somewhere that you like. And I think given time, you'll definitely find the right company that's a right fit for you. Yeah. So don't just jump into any company. If you think that the interview process wasn't right for you, the people wouldn't be a right fit for you, try out another job. Yeah, I would think this industry requires quite a bit of, I mean, there's a demand for engineers in this industry. So don't feel like you are unwanted. Yeah, because your skill set is definitely in demand. Yeah.
Okay, so know what you want, don't compare yourself with others, and be patient. And that brings us to the end of the Q&A. Feel free to hang back and still chat with Alvin if you want. Alvin, do you have to leave immediately? Have you had lunch?
Yeah, I can stay for a
can
while.
stop the recording.
Yeah.
And Alvin is also going to be present at our weekly office hours, which is right now mostly for part-time bootcamp and basics, but we are looking to expand it to full-time bootcamp once we do a bit more capacity planning. So you can also drop in to find Alvin. He's there every Thursday night, 8 to 10 p.m., helping me out with office hours. That's it. Yeah, you can sit back and chat with Alvin. I gotta go soon, so
Okay.
Alvin, I'll see you
I'll be
Thursday.
around for a bit.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for
Thank
having me.
you. Thanks, Alvin.